This is the one set 100 years after the Doc visited Satellite 5.
The Earth is watching crap on television.
Showing that the Earth hasn't changed much in the next 198,086 years.
Someone has been playing a long game.
And finally, we find out who is afraid of the big bad wolf.
Here we go.
We're still on our endless voyage, all through time and all through space.
With Levine and Angels now, Daleks, Cybers, Zamdude, wow!
Tennant, Smith and Eccleston, Gallifrey, where it all began.
Doctor Who is cool again, that was Russell's master plan.
Who back when? Reviewing all new Who there is. Who back when?
Subscribe and rate on iTunes, please.
Rose and Donna, Amy Pond, Rory, Martha and beyond. Join us on this odyssey, what other choice could there be than Who back when? Who back when?
Hello and welcome to N012 of Who Back When, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm JD, and joining me today is Ponkin.
Hello. I'm sorry, what are you saying? I thought I was here to record N012 with you, but, I mean, what's this 1-2 nonsense?
We're doing N012.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Which is Bad Wolf, which is part one of the two-part season finale.
And a fantastic episode, and a fantastic finale in general.
I think we'll probably get into that very shortly. Shall we jump right into, with no nonsense and no anything about anything, into a bite-sized chunk of whom?
I like your attitude, young man. Do let's.
Bite-sized chunk.
The Doctor has been kidnapped and placed into an episode of Big Brother, where he and the housemates must face certain eviction and death in order to solve the mystery of the game station.
Meanwhile, Jack has been kidnapped and placed naked into an episode of What Not to Wear, where he must face Trini and Susanna and death in order to solve the mystery of the game station.
Meanwhile, Rose has been kidnapped and placed into an episode of The Weakest Link, where she must face really hard questions and death in order to solve the mystery of the game station.
Someone is manipulating humanity, and it will take the combined brains of all three of the TARDIS team, a new temporary companion, and death, in order to find out who the big bad wolf is, and even worse, who is hiding in the shadows manipulating these events.
End of B-Scow.
And you're welcome.
You most certainly are. Right, Rooney, and cheesecakes, are we doing this or what?
So, for the first, interminable amount of time, while watching the episode, we get a previously on Belong game.
Yes, that's right. It's not in the last episode or whatever. On the other hand, we did get something very similar in Boomtown. We got a recap of Aliens of London in World War III.
Although, there is distinct lack of Adam.
Oh, I like that. that hadn't even crossed my mind. That just, it felt so natural to me not to have him around.
Well, let's get into a little bit of a Doctor Who trivia here for this episode.
Okie dokie. By
the time that this episode was airing, the fandom's guesswork for what the Bad Wolf was was reaching conspiracy theory levels of craziness.
Okay.
I was reading at the time, one of the really strange possibilities was that the Bad Wolf was Adam.
Oh, interesting.
Who turns out in the future to be Davros.
Oh, wow.
And is in charge of the Daleks.
You know what? That would make perfect sense. He's got the hole in his forehead where later on there could be an eye, right? And I guess he's sort of the right age group. I think that's a pretty nifty and clever theory.
It got really crazy at this point because there were so many theories going around.
Did no one go like, hey, Bad Wolf, backwards is Flodab?
Yes,
maybe it's about
probably.
some sort of leakage somewhere.
It wouldn't have surprised me. I think, there are millions of Doctor Who fans out there, and there were millions of different possibilities for who Bad Wolf was. Because, you've got... One of the good things about Bad Wolf is that it's very difficult to actually create an anagram of it. It's not really anagrammable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
The closest thing to an anagram that it does is floor-bod. So, flawed body. It was, or bad foul. Honestly, if you can think of a possibility, someone had mentioned it. And hardly anyone was right. But, to be honest, we actually don't realise who Bad Wolf is in this episode. Even though we get a clue, we still don't get the answer.
True, yeah.
So, anyway, the Doctor materialises, just in some sort of teleport.
Does he materialise, or does he just wake up? Do we see him, just appearing out of thin air?
No, I thought we actually saw sort of like a screen effect that would indicate that he just arrived.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, fair enough.
It's a screen flash. Basically, he's for all intents and purposes, in the diary room of an episode of Big Brother.
Yeah. Yeah, he sits down in this very comfy-looking chair looking straight into a camera. There's even a voiceover, I'm pretty sure, like, oh, welcome to the house, blah, blah, the doctor is in, whatever. And he meets two of the other housemates. Can I just actually interject something here? I'm sorry, I hate reality TV. Unless it has something to do with cooking, I am not a fan of reality TV. I never watched Big Brother. I think it's all absolute garbage.
Some of it is.
Okay. Well,
I don't watch. I don't watch Big Brother either, and Big Brother has turned into not what it started out as.
Okay.
This episode was shown 10 years ago now.
Yeah, maybe I was a little bit harsh there. Obviously, the Gustibus and whatever. It's just not for me.
No, Big Brother was back then a little bit more serious, and they didn't just try to get a load of freaks of nature.
Okay. Big Brother in Sweden was pretty much just like, let's enclose a bunch of easily inebriated and super horny people in a house and film them all the time so that they just get drunk and bang non-stop. It was never like a sociological experiment or something.
Which is the first couple in Britain were much more like a sociological experiment, to be honest.
Interesting. Okay.
Anyway,
yeah, all right.
he meets Linda with a Y. He also meets two others. And we then get the voice of Davina McCall, who was presenting Big Brother at the time, telling the doctors to go to the diary room.
Oh, awesome.
And title sequence.
Yeah, bingo bongo. And then we cut to Rose,
who is also helped to her feet, so she's obviously been taken the same way that the doctor has.
Yeah. What's his name? What's the actor's name?
Patterson Joseph.
Bingo, that's the guy. He was in Neverwhere.
Yes, he played, is it the Marquis?
Yes, the Carabas.
Yes. And he was one of the people that everyone thought was going to become the 11th Doctor.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. I think he'd make a pretty good doctor.
And anyway, he tells Rose to do whatever the android says. Yeah. Just remember, the android's rule is law. And then Rose realizes that he didn't actually say the word android. He said the word android.
Yeah, exactly.
As
the name of this person. Yeah.
Yeah, a robot version of Anne Robinson, which is voiced by Anne Robinson.
Okay, all right.
And Rose is now a contestant on The Weakest Link. So that's one reality TV show and one game show.
Yeah. Then we cut over to Jack, Captain Jack, who wakes up in, you said this before, What Not to Wear. To me, at the time, I'm not familiar with this TV show, What Not to Wear. I assumed it was some sort of extreme makeover or something like that. He wakes up.
Basically, and What Not to Wear is Trini and Susanna basically take people who have no fashion and tell them what proper clothes to wear and how to not look like they are hobos on the streets.
Yeah. I quite like this little sequence, by the way. It's pretty funny. Like, Jack just awakes.
Absolutely.
And they go, right, where did you get all those clothes? It's very much like, this episode brought to you by Topshop, because he even name drops that franchise in there. And then they defabricate him, i.e. just evaporate all of his clothing, and he stands there naked and just goes, are millions of people watching me right now? They go, yep. He goes, nice, your ratings just skyrocketed. He's just super pleased about all this. I love that. I love this scene.
Well, one item about this scene is that this was the only editorial comment that the BBC had on season 1 of the show.
Oh, really?
You cannot do the scene that they wanted, which was full rear nudity of John Barrowman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of silly in a way, but alright. I get it. I mean, it's a family show. There are kids watching. Maybe ass cheeks would offend some families.
Yeah, that was the only cut that we had.
Okay, interesting. So then we cut back to the Big Brother house, and the doc, he now finally remembers what's going on, because up until this point, the very few conversations or just exchanges he's had with his now housemates have just been like, oh, because you just were beamed in here, whatever they call it, I can't remember what they call it. Because you were just beamed here, you've got temporary amnesia, but that will pass. And then it does pass, and now when we cut back, he suddenly remembers, holy shit, I was on Raxacoricophalopatorius, presumably dropping off the egg, the Blonde egg, and giving it to some adoptive family, and or a restaurant, one might hope.
And then he went to Kyoto in 1336.
Yes, and I just looked up what happened in Kyoto in 1336. This is a story we've just missed out on. Did you look this up?
No, I didn't.
It literally just dawned on me 5 minutes ago to check this out, that maybe something happened. And yes, in 1336, the emperor, I apologize for my pronunciation here, the emperor Go-Daigo was usurped. There was a coup, and presumably this would have been sort of a Marco Polo meets Reign of Terror, or like that kind of that kind of historical?
Actual historical, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and we know that Jack and Rose had been adventuring for some time before Boomtown.
Yeah,
after, after Dr. Dances. And then the Doctor remembers that it must have been a transmat beam.
Yeah.
And it must have been a phenomenal amount more powerful than any transmat in order to penetrate into the shell of the TARDIS.
Yeah, and space-time. Like, not just in real-time plucking people from the Earth, which is, spoiler alert, what we learn that this system normally does, but instead going through space and time and plucking all three out of the TARDIS. Can I just say...
I have a problem with this.
Oh, I have such a big problem with this. But yeah, go for it. You first.
We obviously know the denouncement of both Bad Wolf and Parting of the Ways.
Yeah.
I find it improbable that the major enemy, not trying to do any spoilers at this point, the major enemy that is masterminding all of this did this.
Oh, okay, interesting.
For two reasons.
Okay.
Number one,
yeah,
they wouldn't have transmatted the three of these people into these games.
Yeah, that's my problem with it. They would have transmatted them into the vacuum of space.
Yes.
Yeah, fuck you guys, you're dead.
And number two, I find it implausible that they have this technology.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's a very valid point. But either way, why would they do this? Also, in a little bit, actually, you know what? Fuck it. Let's put a pin in that and return to it in like 5 minutes' time.
So we now cut to somewhere which we haven't seen yet. The sort of production booth of a TV show.
Yeah.
They mention both Big Brother and Weakest Link, and then we go down to see Rose. And Rose is enjoying herself playing this game.
Yeah.
She does seem to be. She's laughing and joking.
Yeah, she's laughing because she doesn't know any of the answers, because the questions are just these ridiculous future space questions to explain the situation using a Terry-nationism.
Yes. And yet, this is the only time a Terry-nationism has been used correctly on
Thank you very much.
Show.
I shall accept my awards happily. Okie dokie. We're now back
but there are some really stupid questions here.
Yeah, there are some, like, just very plain questions, like pick out the vowels from these words.
Oh yeah, but some of these questions are fairly important.
Oh.
And bear in mind that Rose does actually answer one correctly. Rose actually answers what is 258 minus 158 correctly.
Well, that's very clever of her.
Which... The question which is important is, the Great Cobalt Pyramid is built on the remains of which famous old Earth institute?
Yes, Torchwood.
And of course, the answer to that is Torchwood, which is the first mention of Torchwood in Doctor Who.
Holy shit. No, you're very right. That is very cool. This early on, they already knew what was, well, at least part of what was going to happen.
And of course, well, maybe they did, maybe they didn't at this point.
Maybe they just wanted to set it up just in case.
Well, no, Torchwood is what Russell T Davies used as a word to describe what he was doing on film cases so that they weren't stolen.
Right, the alias.
Because Torchwood is an anagram of Doctor Who.
Yep.
That was what Russell T Davies put on film cases to sort of hide what was inside them.
Yeah, so very possibly this
very
was
possibly
just kind
at
of
this point he didn't know.
Yeah, so maybe this is just an inside joke.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that even more. That's a great piece of trivia.
But anyway, Rose is sort of enjoying herself, and we then skip to our favourite Captain Jack.
Okay. Really? Is this now? Yeah, okay. So he's trying on all of these different outfits. Is this the decapitation thing? Yes, it is the decapitation thing, isn't it?
And I will quote what Trini says when we skip over. It's the Buccaneer look. Little dash of pirate and just a tweak of President Schwarzenegger.
Yes, President Schwarzenegger. That is awesome.
I have a problem with this.
Okay.
It's just a little one.
Okay.
We are in the year 2100.
Yeah. I get what you're going to say. You're going to say the exact same thing as in our review of The Ark, which probably at this point will have dropped on iTunes. The whole, like, why would they reference something that's so far back in time? But you don't know, maybe Schwarzenegger, when, quote-unquote, he became president, maybe his fashion sense was just so completely out there that it echoed through the entire history and culture of humanity forever.
And then Susanna says, no, that's a little bit too much Hell's Angels. There are far too many pop culture references
you're right.
for the year.
That is
had this have been set maybe, in the year 2200 or 2300.
Yeah,
something
you're right.
like that.
And they recognize Topshop as a franchise.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's completely true.
Yeah. But anyway,
Topshop at that point surely must be owned by Google or something, which has just transformed into, okay, whatever the corporation is, shall we say, that is running the show here as well.
So Trini basically now says, have you ever thought about cosmetic surgery? And Jack, being fairly vain, goes, yeah, a little lift around the eyes, tighten up my already manly jaw.
Yeah, can I just point out that he says this while he's cupping her plastic boobs?
Yes, he does. Screenshot on the website.
Yes.
And
I'll send a link to Mr. Skin as well.
And then Trini basically has a chainsaw in her arm.
Yeah, we don't see that he doesn't see that just yet. Anyway.
No, we do.
So we cut to Rose. They've finished the first round, and Kablamatron, someone is voted out as the weakest link, as per usual in this game. And rather than just being kicked out of the show, this woman is just laser blasted to smithereens by an droid. And all of a sudden it just dawns on Rose, holy shit, this is actually a game to the death.
Yeah, there's a bit more danger here. So we've now seen two things which are dangerous. So let's go over to the Big Brother house to find out what the danger is going on here. And all the housemates, so the Doc, Strood, Crosby, and Linda are... Sorry, Linda with a Y, not Linda with an I, because she did bad things. They're all brought to the sofa, and basically the doctor says, well, I'm not going to the sofa, I'm trying to get out of here. And we get Davina McCall basically saying, right, you've all been nominated for eviction, and then Crosby gets evicted.
Yeah.
And
it's the same thing. Like,
it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go for it.
Go on. You.
No, I was just, sorry to cut you off there. I was just going to say, except that in this case, the other contestants aren't, they aren't really affected by this. On the weakest link, when that one person is disintegrated, the only person who's actually emotionally affected by this is Rose. What's his face, who's next to her? The guy, Carabas. The only other person who has any kind of reaction is Carabas, who goes oh, you know what, don't worry about it. Actually, we skipped that entire bit. But yeah, so he says, yes, this is a game to the death. Yes, she got voted out. No, I'm not going to vote you out because I want to play against you at the very end because you're dumb. You don't know any of the answers here, and I'm going to get you disintegrated so that I can make lots of money.
Which is, weirdly enough, exactly how the real weakest link game is played, except without the death.
Yeah, exactly. But also, can I just point out, why did he give her a tip in the very beginning? When he picked her up, when she materialized, he goes, just do everything that Android says. Why did he even give her a tip? When she's clearly completely out of the loop, or still affected by the beaming thingy, the transmat, why doesn't he just go, just stand over here, because clearly she's at a disadvantage, giving him an advantage. He doesn't really seem to care very much about the other people's lives, as long as he survives and gets lots of money.
Because he's not evil?
No, he's not evil, but he is quite selfish, and he has this, whatever. Anyway, I think there is something more important that we did skip, though, because before we cut back to the Big Brother house, I think we learn which company is running the show, because there's a break right after the first disintegration, and Rose learns the name of the company that runs the production, right? Or is that later? If it's later, then I apologize.
No, it's later.
Oh, it is later. Okay, sorry. Sorry. I'll put a pin in myself and return to myself in a little bit. Okay, so
right,
Big Brother house.
Back to the Big Brother house.
Yeah.
A door opens and there's a sort of a very small glowingy white corridor with the door at the end.
Yeah.
Crosby stands in there and the Doc, Linda and Strood watch as a disintegrator beam comes down from the ceiling and blows Crosby up.
Yeah.
And Linda says she's been evicted from life.
Okie dokie. Right. Do we get Captain Jack's ass gun now? I think so. You know what? We don't actually have to do this in the exact same order. All of these narratives are perfectly parallel. So while...
No, they're all going on at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. So while Rose is playing and now realizes what's going on, and while the Doc is in the Big Brother house and realizes, holy shit, there's something going on here, he needs to get out of the house and save his companions. At the same time, Captain Jack realizes that, holy shit, there's more at stake here than just the changing of an outfit. Because the two androids start suggesting, we're going to chop off your head, we're going to replace it with a dog's head or whatever, blah, blah, blah. At which point he produces an ass laser. He has a tiny little laser gun hidden inside himself. Which is so awesome. I want one.
And weirdly, I have no problem with this.
I have no problem with that either.
It's very Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. It is surprisingly clean. I just want to say that. Like, it is...
Yeah, and then he blows up Trini and Susanna.
Yeah, well done.
We skip back to the weakest link.
Oh, okay.
And in the weakest link, another one of the contestants is blown up, where we find out there's going to be some solar flares.
Yeah.
And then Roderick, so the Marquis de Carabas, turns around and goes, "Want to be up against you because you're thick, and I get a load of credits off the Bad Wolf Corporation."
This is where we find out. Sorry about that. I completely jumped the gun. Sorry. And we get this lovely montage. Well, lovely. We get this awesome montage of prior references to Bad Wolf that Rose is remembering.
Yeah, Rose is remembering them, and there is a problem with one of the memories.
Yeah, one that she didn't actually encounter herself.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Van Statten's helicopter.
Yeah, exactly.
She didn't actually remember that because she never actually heard it in the first place. And weirdly, she remembers all of them except the bomb.
Oh, yeah. Well, she doesn't...
Sing a wolf.
Yeah.
And she did see that.
Yeah, but she probably doesn't speak German, so she wouldn't recognize it.
The TARDIS translates it.
Really?
TARDIS translates writing, as we found out with Rory in Angels Take Manhattan, where it changes the writing on the vase so that he can understand it.
Okay. Well, the only reason I saw this was I was looking for screenshots for the website, and I found I guess sort of a promo still of Captain Jack straddling the bomb. In the end, I actually...
no, it does say Schussinger Wolf. It doesn't say Bad Wolf on the side of it, but Rose would be able to understand it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Very true. Very true. Cool. And the Doctor is now going to escape the Big Brother house.
Apparently, yeah, he goes into the corridor of death.
Yeah, I'm going to say that I'm going to hate what happens next. Sorry, just wanted to interject that before you move on. Please move on.
He then turns to the monitor and goes, "Right, come on, blow me up."
Yep.
Blow me up.
And does it blow him up?
Well, no.
No, it doesn't. And then he says, did we put a pin in this before? I think we did put a pin in this before. He says, "I knew you weren't going to kill me. I knew you weren't going to disintegrate me because otherwise you would have done it already. You wouldn't have beamed me onto the show. You clearly want me alive."
Now,
this plot point, that makes no sense.
This leads to one of two possible questions here.
Yeah.
Number one, the people who possibly did this that I'm not mentioning because it might be spoilers.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't do it. Maybe it's the controller that did it, as we will meet the controller very shortly.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
And that makes sense because the controller controls the games.
Yeah, and actually said that she was... Oh, wait, hang on.
Right.
The controller actually says that she was looking for the Doctor and finally found him. So maybe it's the controller that went through space-time and found them.
With one exception.
Okay.
We know what the transmat does, and it transmats from Earth to the game station.
Yeah.
And it does one other thing that we'll find out later.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to say it now because that's a spoiler.
Yeah.
But...
You have a big heart.
I do. But my heart only reaches as far as that. Because right at the start, the Doctor said that in order to transmat him from the TARDIS, it would have had to have been far more powerful than any transmat. So, you're talking millions of times more powerful, thousands of times more powerful.
Yeah. And
the controller does not have that technology.
Yeah, and not just that, that's not the gadget that they have. It's not even a question of, are they capable of doing it? Do they have the know-how, the skills?
Yeah, he says 15 million times more powerful.
Makes absolutely no sense. It's like, so we have this thing that literally is only designed to beam people from Earth to the game station. But because we are, let's say, for instance, that they do have the technology, just because we have the technology, it is also able to do everything else that we as a culture, as a civilization, are able to do, including, beam through space-time, travel through time, disintegrate people, make cappuccinos, absolutely every single thing this gadget can do. But that's not what it's designed for. That is ridiculous. Anyway.
I agree.
Okay, have we actually met the controller yet?
No.
God damn it, when do we meet the controller?
Soon.
Alright, go on.
Anyway, the door opens because the Doctor turns around and goes, "Right, I'm standing in this corridor, and he's basically finally opened the door.
Yeah.
And the Doctor says, right, Linda, Strood, come with me.
Yeah.
It's the Doctor's come with me if you want to live moment in the episode.
It's very much so. He reaches out for her and everything.
And he says, you're sweet. Do you think anyone votes for sweet? And then Linda becomes our temporary companion for the episode.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you about that, if you consider her a companion. It seemed, for a while there, it seemed as though she was actually going to be taken on board, but she isn't really. I mean, she never travels in the TARDIS, but she is very helpful and she's very sweet. That's it.
Yeah, she's our temporary companion. She's not an Adam.
No, she's Brett.
She's Brett, yeah, she's Brett Fireman. She's nice and useful. You know, she's not considered a companion in Doctor Who lore, but she's a temporary one for this episode.
Bingo.
So, now we get exposition.
Ooh.
Finally. The Doctor has gone outside the door and he realises he's actually on Satellite 5, which is where they were in the long game.
Yeah.
And Linda says, well, no one's called it Satellite 5 in ages. It's now called the Game Station. And explains it 100 years after he was here last time. It's the year 200100. And Linda explains that there's 10 floors of Big Brother, there's different houses, there's Call My Bluff with real guns, there's Countdown, where you've got 30 seconds to stop a bomb going off, which is actually probably a much more fun version of the game. Ground Force, for those that don't know, in real life, that is a gardening show. And in this one, you get turned to compost if you fail it.
Nice.
It's probably got crinoids in. And Stars in Their Eyes, which, if you don't sing, you get blinded.
This is a really pleasant future that we've got in store. By the way, sorry, can I interrupt you?
Yes.
This is possibly a Who Back When first, and I only know this from IMDb, but there's a trivia alert that we've missed. When they were in the Big Brother house, the Doctor was trying to escape and he was using a sonic screwdriver, and Linda with a Y says...
It's deadlocked.
Exactly, it's got a deadlock seal.
It is the first mention of deadlocking in
New Who, but it's the second mentioning of deadlocking, because it was also mentioned in the War Games in 1969.
Was it?
Okay. According to IMDb, I can't take credit for that one. According to IMDb, it's, I'll read it out loud here. Deadlock seals are first mentioned as a barrier that the sonic screwdriver can't breach in the 1969 episode The War Games. They are referenced again later in the 2006 episode School Reunion. And I was actually going to ask you about this because in 69 there were no sonic screwdrivers yet. Or was there? Oh no, sorry, there was, wasn't there?
Patrick Troughton had one in Fury from the Deep.
Bingo. So this must be, is the War, I take it the War Games is after that then. So yeah, there you go. Alright, boom.
Okay.
And then it's mentioned once again in 2006 in the episode School Reunion.
It is indeed. It is mentioned in School Reunion.
Is that the Sarah Jane K9 episode?
It is indeed.
It is, yeah.
I'm really surprised that it was mentioned in the War Games. To the point, actually, where I not quite in disbelief over it.
Okay. Well, it's IMDb. It's not, Encyclopedia Britannica. It's very possible that they've Wikipedia'd this. As in, that some fan has added this reference and not necessarily done the research. So please, people, do not kill me on Twitter or Facebook for this. But I
think we'll find out when you get to the end of Troughton. I must admit, I've not watched the War Games in a while, so it's severely possible that it did have, but that would be quite that's
pretty
quite
cool, I
surprised
thought.
me. Yeah. If it's true, I am really, really interested in that.
Right. Can I ask a question for you, just to return to the episode? So,
absolutely.
Now the Doctor finds out that it's the Bad Wolf Corporation. When they've stepped outside, he's listed, or Linda with a Y has listed all of these other parallel shows that are super popular and whatever. He goes, who's running the show? She turns on the lights, and there's this massive Bad Wolf logo on the wall.
Yes.
This is a rather rudimentary query, but... Why Bad Wolf? I mean, I know what happens and what the Bad Wolf signifies, as in who the Bad Wolf is and whatever, blah, 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 spoiler alert, as though any of our listeners don't know this already, but why does the Bad Wolf call themselves Bad Wolf?
I'll address that in parting other ways.
Oh, okay, alright. Okay.
Because at the moment, it is the name of the corporation that owns Satellite 5.
Yeah, alright, fine.
And that, at this point in space-time, that is all it is. This is the only incident of Bad Wolf in the TV show which is not caused by the Bad Wolf.
Yeah, it doesn't... It seems as though this is these are the bad guys. Bad Wolf Corporation, those are the bad guys at the moment until we find out who's running the show properly, like who the grey eminence behind the scenes is. But why would okay, spoiler alert, people. Why would the Bad Wolf, i.e. goddamn Rose, why would she lend her name to the bad guy's main weapon, i.e. this broadcasting station?
She's not. She is named after the... I'll address this all in parting of the ways.
All right,
there's
we'll
an
put a pin in
entire
this.
5 minutes on this. Pin now. It's a pin which you will have to wait until the next episode, but stay tuned to Who Back When, a Doctor Who podcast.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We then get to see the controller and talking to all of the computer programmers upstairs.
Yeah.
And,
who
they're
plays
all...
the controller?
I have no idea who plays the controller.
Again, thank you very much, IMDb Trivia. Sorry to interrupt you there. The controller is played by Martha Cope. Now, Martha Cope's father, Kenneth Cope, has also
Kenneth Cope.
Yeah, he's been in Doctor Who.
Cope, yeah.
He was in Warrior's Gate with Tom Baker.
He was indeed in Warrior's Gate. And he was also played the Ghost, the main character in Randall and Hopkirk Deceased.
Oh, not familiar with that. Awesome. Very cool.
And, of course, Martha Cope will return to our ears in some Big Finish audios.
Oh, very cool. Okie dokie. Yeah, sorry. I interrupted you. I apologize. Go on.
Yeah, so we get the controller. The controller's talking, and they're trying to figure out who the Doc, Rose, and Jack are.
Yeah.
And we get to hear some Archive 6 is out of bounds, and then we see quick cutscene to Jack. Jack, who has basically taken Trini's defabricator, the thing that made him remove his clothing.
Yeah, I need to get me one of those.
Well, he turned it into a gun.
Yeah.
And using his vortex manipulator on his arm, he goes and...
Locates the Doctor. Yeah.
So, meanwhile, the Doc and Linda with a Y are looking in the observation deck that we saw in Long Game. And looking out over the planet Earth. And,
It does not look good.
No.
The Earth has changed a lot in the past 100 years.
And the Doctor mentions that this is history gone wrong.
Yeah.
This should be the fourth great and bountiful human empire. And he says quite deliberately, the last time I was here, I put it
100
right.
years ago. Yeah, exactly. 100 years ago. And that just clicks for Linda with a Y. She just goes, yeah, that's when shit went down. Like, that's when stuff really started going completely haywire. That was 100 years ago. So this is
all the news channels shut down overnight.
Yeah, and this is absolutely cementing the fact that the Doctor, his intervention in history, screwed over mankind.
And he realizes this.
Yeah.
And in the review of the Ark, we mentioned that was the first episode where the Doctor, really comes back and revisits what happens to a world that he's touched.
Yeah.
This is another of this really prime examples of how the Doctor
absolutely.
is not always perfect. And in this case, actually screwed up what would have been called the fourth great and bountiful human empire, but is now basically a shitstorm.
Yeah, although one might argue that he didn't necessarily cause this, he just made it easier for the bad guys to take over. I mean, it was already happening in the Long Game, right?
Yeah, but he's changed history, because he knew before he arrived that this was going to be the fourth great and bountiful human empire. Then he did things, and now it isn't. Okay,
true, but someone else has already changed history, because in the Long Game, that was already meant to be the fourth great and bountiful human empire, and it wasn't. So someone else had already changed history, and he then thought that he had changed it back, that he had repaired it, but instead he just made it worse.
Yeah, and at this point, though, he doesn't know about the grey eminence behind the curtain.
Exactly.
So he thinks it's all his fault.
Yeah. Anyway, so now they're joined by Jack, and he obviously starts flirting with Linda with a Y. Pretty cool scene. I really like that, especially when he goes into Spanish and she just, gets weak in the knees. Yeah, they set off to find Rose, which they do. She's one of the two final contestants. Coincidentally, it's Rose and Carabas, or Roderick. She loses the finale just as she's about to be lasered, or well, just as it's just very clear she's done for. Boom, Doc, Jack, and Linda with a Y storm in. Think they've saved the day. Android wants to laser blast Doc to shit, but instead, Rose sacrifices herself. She jumps in the way of the laser, tries to warn the Doctor, but is lasered herself. For all we know, she's dead. I mean, obviously she's not, because if and when something dramatic happens to her, an exit from the show, it will have to be much more dramatic. It needs to get more focus and more pomp and circumstance. In this case, it's just, boom, click of the fingers, she's gone.
But at this point, it's the end of the season. Frankly, do you know if this is not how she's going to die? And the answer is, this is the first season of Doctor Who back. This was all filmed before the first episode was shown.
Yeah.
So this could have been how they got rid of her. Because Linda with a Y is basically, could
She's
be
lined
replacement
up.
companion.
Yeah, she's clearly lined up
as is Jack.
Okay, that's true. Yes, that is completely true. But Rose has been such an incredible companion. She's just been there. I reckon she would have a death scene, not just a death cut, you know? There would have to be a goodbye.
At the time, you had no idea what Rusty T. Davis's writing was like. Really didn't. So this was possible. And, okay, now, 10 years on, I agree with you. But at the time, no. And of course, she wouldn't have turned into, you know, literally this was all filmed before it went out. So you wouldn't have known how popular she would actually become as a companion at the time when this was being filmed.
That's true.
So anyway, Jack and the Doc and Linda with a Y are all arrested.
Yeah, I like this scene, by the way.
Jack is furious, as in just violently furious.
Yeah, so is the Doctor. That's mainly what I like about this.
And the Doctor is completely and utterly silent.
Yeah, up
and
until...
that probably says a lot more about his anger, because up until this point, every time he's got angry and, you know, a villain has sort of been taunting him, even the Dalek in Dalek, his anger has manipulated as a lot of talking and shouting.
Yeah.
This is him being serious.
Yeah, so he is completely quiet, but then all of a sudden, when they're just told by the security guard, there's not going to be a trial, you cannot defend yourselves, you're being sent to some penal colony, was it on the moon, I think? A lunar penal colony?
Yeah.
Kablamo, and you're going to be there indefinitely. All of a sudden, the Doctor just goes, yeah, let's do this. And he and Jack just Steven Seagal the shit out of 3 guards. It is awesome.
And even Linda takes weapons and is going off with them.
Yeah, and the Doctor actually punches a dude.
Yeah. Oh, he is furious.
Yeah.
And anyway, they go to the lift and the Doc, Linda and Jack basically turn up at the control console, and Jack is just, as you say, Steven Seagaling it. Yeah. He has weapons out of the wazoo and
Quite literally, as we found out earlier.
Yeah. and is literally just furious. The Doc just comes in, right, who's in charge? And just goes, who killed her? Want an answer right now. And you honestly think he's going to shoot this person, but doesn't. He actually throws his weapon at him.
Yeah, he hands over the gun and goes, you didn't actually think I was going to shoot anyone. So he hands over the gun and then keeps on asking. And I think this is probably the gesture that allows this other dude, who is, I guess, like the main hombre in the control room that we've met so far. And the gesture that allows that guy to start trusting the Doctor. And he just goes, no, you cannot ask the controller a question. She doesn't recognize you, therefore she literally cannot answer your questions.
And the controller, we haven't said, is sort of connected to everything. She's completely blind. She's got wires coming in and out of her.
Yeah. Actually, the sensation that I got was a little bit of the precogs in Minority Report. You know, like she had been there since she was a little girl, I think they say. And she's blind. She actually looks a lot like the precogs, just that she's been like matrixed into this computer system, this satellite. And by the way, this is on floor 500. This is exactly where Shaun of the Dead was before.
Yes, absolutely. This is obviously floor 500.
Yeah.
Jack finds a locked door. One of the females up here says you're not allowed in there, and it's out of bounds. Jack just brandishes his 2 guns and goes, do I really look like an out of bounds type of guy?
Such a kick-ass guy.
And then he goes into the archive and finds the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And of course, basically at this point we realise that it is the controller that brought Jack, the Doctor, Rose, and the TARDIS here.
Yeah, that's...
Even though
she shouldn't be able to.
Impossible for her to have that technology.
Yeah. No, you're right. And that actually means that our little rant in the beginning, like argument 1 of the 2 arguments that we have against this happening, is actually null and void.
Well, yeah, but I'm trying to point out that there are 2 possibilities at that point, and neither of them make any sense.
Yeah,
because the
you're
second
right.
one doesn't get any better.
Totally freaking right. Then, Sublamatron.
Solar flares.
Solar flares, which allows the controller to no longer to actually be in control again. So now she can speak to the Doctor and says that she's being controlled by someone, she has masters of her own, and she says she was looking for him, she knew he was going to come and save everything, and that whoever her masters are, they have been manipulating the Earth for, like, forever. Centuries, anyway.
Yeah, and the masters, they fear the Doctor. The Doctor says, well, my friend actually died inside your games.
Yeah.
And the controller makes a slight mistake here and says, doesn't matter. And the Doctor is visibly quite really pissed off.
Yeah. Jack returns. He's figured something out here. Turns out, when you're disintegrated in any of these games, you're not actually disintegrated. You're beamed. You're beamed away. And he demonstrates this on... Who is it? Is it Linda with a Y?
It's Linda with Y.
Yeah, he just goes, yeah, stand over there. Kablamatron disintegrates her. Everyone just goes, fuck, man! Are you serious? This potential companion? And then he goes like, hey, guys, cool your boots, man. Then reintegrates her again. So, what does that mean exactly? Does that mean she is mid-beam? Is she in the computer?
Yep.
Okay. And then he reintegrates her. She's fine. Everything's cool. Ipso facto, Rose is still alive.
Cut to a spaceship.
Bingo.
Rose wakes up and she turns around and goes, you're dead. I saw you die. And we see a plunger.
Do we actually see the plunger? I missed the plunger, but you very clearly recognize, at the very least, the, I guess, optical effect that, because we see her from the point of view of whomever she's addressing.
Dalek.
Yeah, exactly. And it is very clearly a Dalek. You get the little whizzy bang, like, the heads up display of the Dalek looking at Rose.
So we cut back to floor 500.
Yeah.
The controller basically gives the Doctor the coordinates.
Yeah.
But the solar flares have gone, so the Daleks can hear the controller now.
Yeah.
And basically the Daleks teleport the controller out and kill her.
And kill her. Actually, one point about where they beam her to and where Rose has materialized as well, the Dalek spaceship. The noise that you hear, the background hum and that sort of heartbeat that you hear in the Dalek spaceship, it is the exact same background noise that you hear inside the Dalek time machine in The Chase.
Yeah, it's traditional Dalek. Russell T Davies did this very well.
Oh, it's so well done.
Murray Gold, actually, who does a lot of the sound effects and stuff, and
Okay.
music. This is really good.
It's so
really
nicely
well
done. I wouldn't have picked up on this if we hadn't done the Chase review relatively recently, but it is without a doubt the same one.
So back on floor 500, Jack and Pavel are flirting.
Yes.
And then the Doctor turns around and goes, someone's been playing a long game, basically controlling humanity.
Yeah.
And he's fiddling with the controls and says, right, this satellite does more than this. It is actually hiding something.
Yeah.
And he turns it off. And what we get is 200 Dalek spaceships.
It's awing. It is amazing. That scene is beautiful.
It is. And, I think we need a couple of screenshots of that because
absolutely.
It is an amazing scene. And this is the first time we have seen Daleks en masse done in proper CGI in Doctor Who.
You know what? I thought some of the space CGI wasn't necessarily as good as prior space CGI that we've had on the show. As in, it almost have kind of a Babylon 5-ish vibe to it. But it doesn't matter. It's beautifully done, and it is also, and I'm not trying to criticize any of these artists, but yeah. Forget what I said. It looks great.
And then the Dalek and the Doctor open a communication channel with each other.
Yeah.
And the Dalek is so confident and turns around and goes, right, we're nearly ready now, and you won't interfere with us. Doctor says, yeah, right, why? The Dalek points out, well, we've got her.
Yeah.
And if you don't obey, we're going to kill her.
Yeah. He just goes, nope.
And the Dalek is, you can almost hear confusion in its voice.
Flabbergasted. Flummoxed.
But hold on, what is the meaning of this negative? Well, it means no. And it's an amazing Christopher Eccleston scene.
It is.
And, the Dalek continues and goes, but hold on, we're gonna kill her. The Doctor just goes, no. Because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rescue her. I'm going to rescue her from where she is, I'm gonna save the Earth, and I'm going to blow every single one of you up.
Yeah, there is one other thing as well. He says, in Dalek history, or throughout Dalek history, I have been known as, is it the bringer of destruction or something like that?
The oncoming storm.
Oh, that's what it is. The oncoming storm, which I think maybe is a little...
I thought that was the next episode he's called that.
Oh, really? I think it's when he's talking on... Oh, maybe it is the next one. I apologize if I jumped the gun there as well. But either way, whenever he says that, I thought maybe that It's a bit too much, I think, but
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. He is absolutely just kicking ass and taking names over Skype with the Daleks. And then he, still on Skype, faces Rose and goes, "Hey, Rose, babe, I'm coming to get you. Don't worry."
And of course, I'm coming to get you is the Davina McCall's tagline from Big Brother.
Oh, really?
Yep, that's what bookends that scene very nicely, because when he turns around and looks literally at the camera and says, "Rose, I'm coming to get you," is exactly what Davina McCall would say to Big Brother contestants.
Oh, interesting. Not having watched Big Brother, yeah. Sorry, not having watched it, I did not pick up on that. That's really cool.
The Daleks now, straight after that, it's a mix of moving into battle positions and being shit scared.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a question about that. Actually, you know, shall we just end it? Let's end it and then make a little point. End of episode. Okay, so I've got just a tiny point to make about the Daleks. I don't think I'd noticed this before, as in the episode Dalek. But when the Daleks speak, in this episode and the next, they jitter. They just shake whenever they say anything.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. I'm assuming it's because they have to operate the light. I'm guessing, like, they have to operate the lights. And doing that entails some kind of actual physical motion as opposed to just being sound activated or something. But every time they say something, they just shake, rattle, and roll. Check it out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, check it out, viewers.
Yeah.
I will be.
Okie dokie. Right, Rooney.
Reviews.
Reviews.
This is a hard one for me to rate. Mm-hmm. I love Parting of the Ways. I'm going to put that out there because I have said in the past, and I say it a lot, that 2-part episodes, normally the second part is the one that lets it down. Mm-hmm. In this one, it's the first part. I think Parting of the Ways is a superb episode. I know I'm not reviewing Parting of the Ways, but I feel like
just a disclaimer.
I have to say that before I review Bad Wolf. I don't like the first 20 minutes. I think that the logical flaws and logical problems with the first 20 minutes of this episode ruin it in a way that it didn't have to. The commentary on reality TV, yeah, fine, good. Let's have commentary, but let's not set it 200,000 years in the future. You know, this is a problem we have when setting things so far in the future. You shouldn't have anything which is that familiar. Weakest Link, Big Brother, and it doesn't work for me personally. And I think that they should have done something different or set it 100 years in the future or, 200 years. Something with a bit more close to time. And that it would have worked. It would have worked in both Long Game and here had they have set it in the year 2500, which would have been still close enough to really have a possibility of this. Saying that, Linda with a Y is great. I love Linda with Y. I love Captain Jack. I love Rose and I love the Doctor. To be honest, they make, this episode has, as characters on screen go, got a lot of good ones. As you say, the Marquis de Carabas is very, Patterson Joseph is a great actor. And although his part's really fairly small, he does a good job. And I think that the moment they escape the games, the moment that Rose dies, is where this episode kicks into really good. At this point, we ignore the games because they've become irrelevant. And you have Jack and the Doctor's very, very different reactions to Rose's death, but both perfectly believable. Both Chris Eccleston and John Barrowman at this point are acting their little socks off. The Doctor's absolute fury on the command deck and his completely believable throwing of a gun to someone else is well within the Doctor's character. So, in short, first 20 minutes of the episode, I actually really dislike. Second half of the episode, I think is absolutely amazing. So, the first half of the episode I'm going to give a 1.5 to. The second half of the episode gets a 5 out of 5 because I love the second half of this episode really that much. Sadly, I'm going to give this a 3.5.
Wow.
Because I think that the first half of it just didn't have to be written like it was, and had other things happened instead, it would have made a far better episode. But and there's too many logical inconsistencies about this transmat. It's obviously Dalek technology because everyone who is transmatted goes to the Dalek ship. apart from the 3 people who are brought to the games. And the Daleks are obviously controlling this, so why didn't they put them into a volcano? If it's the controller controlling it, which it seems to be, how did she get the ability to have a transmat being 15 million times stronger, as the Doctor says, than any other transmat? It's like, no, the setup of this episode makes 0 sense. Second half, absolutely amazing. And it leads into Parting of the Ways, which is only a hair's breadth, in my eyes, the second best episode of this season. And arguably it's the best, but this leads into it. So second half, amazing. First half, shit.
Wow. Okie dokie. Right. I believe, spoiler alert, this is another one of those where I'm enjoying the episode and giving it a higher rating than you have, JD. You've already pointed out the logical inconsistencies, so I'm not going to go into detail, but I will say that yes, they aggravate me. They infuriate me. I am incredibly annoyed by that. Just add one tiny little thing to that as well, namely that not only does the controller not have that technology, but if she did have that technology, she could actually use it against the Daleks. If she's able to pluck people from any other point in space and time, then Jesus Christ, surely she could just start doing the same, or the reverse, I guess, to the Daleks, and she doesn't. So yeah, anyway, logical inconsistencies aside, while that obviously, as before, means that I need to mark this down a little bit, I have to say, sweet buttery Moses, I like this episode. And as I told you before we press record, this is the episode and the double feature, as in the 2 episodes as a whole. This is where, ironically, at the very end of Eccleston's run, this is where my now revised opinion of Eccleston is cemented. I think Eccleston is doing a fantastic job as the Doctor in this episode and in Parting of the Ways. Everything that I disliked about him before has now changed. He is very take charge, he's very witty, his acting is just, his acting throughout the season or the series has been great, but now he's really come into his own and he's really given full reign. He's given such range and just space to act in, and I love that. I'm not super duper keen on Linda with a Y, but she's okay and she is nice, but unfortunately I am part of that contingent who doesn't necessarily always vote for nice, and for that reason I much prefer Rose, I much prefer Captain Jack. Captain Jack is amazeballs here. Not only is he super alpha, and I guess he takes on a lot of the action adventure, the sci-fi action elements of the show in this episode, while the Doctor is very clever. Not only that, he takes on all of the sex appeal, and he's got a freaking butt laser. You gotta give it bonus decimals for a butt laser. Rose is good, but I don't think she's remarkable in this. I will add something else as well. This may contrast what you said, not necessarily in your review, but in our, I guess, who back when take on this episode about production value and CGI. I remember distinctly thinking when I rewatched this episode last night, in fact, that it looked a little bit budgety. Like, it looked a little bit like, not the CGI, but the actual set design and some of the framing and everything. It just looked a little bit like, oh, this is not necessarily super high production values and whatever, but it had an incredibly positive Doctor Who charm to it. Like, not that this was just shot in a black garage somewhere on the BBC lot, but it was plot-driven and it was character-driven rather than set-design-driven. Another thing you said was that this wasn't very good criticism of reality TV. I disagree, not with it being bad criticism of reality TV, but of it being criticism of it in the first place. I don't think that their take on reality TV, as in Big Brother, whatever, all these game shows, I don't think that their take on it was profound enough to even merit being called criticism or a critique. I think it was just, I guess, a familiar setting for the viewers in 2005. It's just a setting, a TV setting that everyone who watches Doctor Who will, or most of them will be familiar with, and therefore it's okay, and it's kind of a fun gag. As you said, the same voices, the same actors, the same show hosts, the same tagline that the Doctor uses, I'm coming for you, or I'm coming to get you. I didn't pick up on that, but the viewers back then would have picked up on that. So I think that's just kind of, here's a fun bit of trivia. Here you go. Here's something recognizable. We're the BBC. We love ourselves. And I don't mind it. it. Even though I hate reality TV, I thought this was good. Oh,
sorry, you know how I hate to break into reviews.
Go for it.
One thing I will say is that Big Brother is not a BBC show.
Oh, okay.
The Weakest Link is a BBC show.
Okay.
And What Not to Wear is a BBC produced show, yes. But it's normally on a different channel.
Okay.
So
2 out of 3.
So yeah, but the big one that's used in here, Big Brother, is actually a Channel 4 show.
All right.
Now a Channel 5, but at the time was Channel 4.
Channel 4. Okay, all right. Well, I stand partly corrected. It doesn't matter. It's still, I think, just a reference to, at the time, current pop culture, rather than criticism of it as a concept. So I don't mind it. I thought that was just kind of fun. Yeah, I will cut this short. I'm going to give this a rating that is higher than your rating. I'm giving this a 4.2. And spoiler alert, I'm going to give the next one an even higher mark. Eccleston, I apologize for ever doubting you.
Soon you will be apologising to Noel Clarke as well. And Catherine Tate.
Oh, wait, Pumpkin predicts the future. Nope. Not gonna happen. Alright, shall we jump into Listener Minis?
Let us.
Listener Minis.
Here's a mini that comes from Claire Hamilton Russell. Claire, hello, how are you doing? Claire writes, the first episode of the concluding two-parter of Series 1 of New Who is very much of its time, packed with a futuristic take on contemporary game shows. The idea of a satellite packed with murder game shows is, in itself, really quite creepy, though whether it makes logical sense in terms of the situation revealed at the end of the episode is another thing altogether. However, the use of incredibly recognizable reality TV and game show formats from The Weakest Link to Big Brother puts this episode firmly into the realm of hyper-realistic high camp and, from the perspective of 2014, a mild nostalgia fest.
The later series have sensibly kept their contemporary nods to small in-jokes about Scottish independence in The Beast Below and Deep Breath. The game shows, presumably intending to showcase the new show's contemporary appeal and distinguish it from the cardboard monsters reputation of the classic show, have sadly dated this episode badly on rewatching.
The big reveal at the end of the episode also rather fails to make any sense. I at least find it hard to imagine Dalek psychology coming up with the labyrinthine process of setting up orbital studios to scoop participants into murder game shows to cover their process of taking cells to breed a Dalek army. A small war or two seem a lot easier and less elaborate, as well as just more their kind of deal. I actually completely agree with that.
So do I. It's a shame, and I think we'll get into that in Parting of the Ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a shame that this episode, in many ways, feels rather a trial of style over substance, as there are some genuine positives too. Using the Doctor's ill-considered intervention from the long game against him here is a nice touch, and a clever parallel to Captain Jack's accidental near-extermination of humanity back in The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances. While the Controller is a stunning character and a superlative portrayal by actress Martha Cope, by turns both chilling and sympathetic. There are also some very nice performances from the doomed people caught up in the games, bringing the horror of the situation home to the viewer, and I have to give an honourable mention to Barrowman for his supreme confidence as he declares, "Ladies, your viewing figures just went up." Overall, I give this a 3.2.
Very nice review. Okay, first of all, nice reference back to The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances and the long game, and I cannot believe, JD, I cannot believe that neither you nor I made a reference back to the long game in our own minis.
No, but I did mention it a couple of times during...
Yes, during our takeover. Yeah, no, absolutely.
But
I think it actually bumps it up a little bit. Like, that's a...
I just hate the first half of it so much that absolutely nothing can get it moving from the score I gave it. You know, as I said, the second half, which is where the long game intervention is done, I've already given a 5.0, so I can't really bump it up any more than a 5. The second half is absolutely superlative. It's amazing. It's just sadly quite ruined by logical transmat inconsistencies, and as Claire quite rightly mentions, that when you poke a little bit more under the surface, that the actual teleporting people to the Dalek ship, which we will go into in Parting of the Ways, is just not Dalek at all.
No,
it's not.
I absolutely agree with that. And also, if they have the means to do that, why don't they just do that? Why do they need all this pretense? Why not just beam people straight into a factory where they turn them into Daleks?
The logical inconsistencies, sadly, is a little bit miserable on that, but it gets better in Parting of the Ways.
It does, yeah, absolutely. Anyway, Claire, awesome. Thank you very much for your review. And people who are not Claire, if you want to follow her on Twitter, find her and convince her to join Twitter.
So we also had a mini review for a combination of Bad Wolf and The Parting of the Ways from Robert M. Albrecht from Germany, and we will be reading that out after our review of The Parting of the Ways.
Yeah, either way, danke sehr. Okie dokie, I believe that wraps up this episode of Who Back When?
A Doctor Who podcast. If you are not Ponkin, you can keep up with his twitterings on social media.
Yeah.
By going to @Ponkin.
Here's how you spell that.
Ponken, Ponkin.
And if you're not me, you can also follow me, although I have been lax in tweeting recently. I am @Marius Kane.
That's Kane with a K.
And one day I will change my Twitter handle, and that will confuse everyone. So, I've been JD, he's been Ponkin.
Damn right, thank you so much for listening. Catch you in the next one. Be right next to each other.
It's been wonderful.
And you've been beautiful. Ciao, ciao.
Who back when?
Kablamo! Did you enjoy the show? Then please do what you know in your heart to be the right thing and spread the gospel of Who Back When. Like us on Facebook, that's facebook.com/whobackwhen, all in one word. Find us on Google+, that's plus Who Back When, all in one word, and follow or add or like us there. I have no idea what it's called on Google+, but if you're on Google+, then you should do that. Check us out on SoundCloud, vote us up on Reddit, and have a peek around our website, whobackwhen.com, where you can leave a comment, submit a review of your own, and peruse our visual index of aliens, monsters, and more, which is increasing in badassdom by the day. And lastly, give us a rating and review on iTunes. Not only would it make us super chuffed, and it really would, but we're also planning a pretty fun surprise for everyone who has. That's it. Rock on and be rad and excellent to each other. Catch your earballs in our next Classic Who review, New Who review, or Audio Who review. Ciao, ciao.
Who back when?